Look, I might be a little controversial with this, but the Champions League winner is not always the best team in the world. Yes, on paper, it should be like that, but that's rarely the case. Take Real Madrid in 2022, for example. They were on the edge in every game in the knockout stage. PSG, then Chelsea, then Man City. Madrid could have easily been eliminated in any of those games. And then, in the final, Liverpool, who were, in my opinion, the best playing club that season, still lost to Madrid in the best performance we have ever seen from Thibaut Courtois. Or, even a year earlier, Man City was easily the best in the world, but lost the final to Chelsea. So, why am I telling you all this? Because this season, we finally have a team that could be proclaimed the best in the world, and PSG are just that. You can't argue with this, there's no doubt about it. Yes, you might hear people say Barcelona could have beaten them if they had played in the final, but the very fact that Barca blew a 3-2 lead 2 minutes before the end of their semi-final against Inter, well, that speaks volumes. And today, we're going to explore why the Club World Cup must fear PSG, especially after their strong start to the tournament, beating Atlético Madrid 4-0 in their opening game. Look, I gotta be honest with you. We are recording this a couple of hours after their defeat to Botafogo in round 2, but let me tell you 3 things. Half of their squad was rested, Dembélé hasn't played a single minute in the tournament yet, and this was PSG's first defeat in an important match since mid-April, when they lost to Aston Villa in the second leg of the Champions League quarter-finals, so it's not really a defeat that should cause you any concern. On the other hand, PSG are scary when they have all their best players available, and this is reason number 1 why all the other participants must fear the treble winner. Listen, if you open up against them, you are dead. They have the most dynamic players in the world, and that's facts. The front 3, made up of Dembélé, Kvaratskhelia, Doué and Barcola on some occasions, can play anywhere in attack. Behind them are Vitinha and João Neves, who are incredibly agile and skillful with the ball at their feet. Then there's Fabian Ruiz, who, despite his 189cm height, has an excellent dribbling ability, which, combined with his physicality, press resistance, and fantastic long shot, makes him one of the most underrated midfielders in the world. And of course, the 2 on the flanks, Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, constantly join the attacks and are currently the best fullbacks in the world. Their stats prove it. No other right-back-left-back duo has contributed more than 21 goals this season. Alejandro Balde and Jules Koundé are the only ones who come close, with a total of 5 goals and 16 assists in 2024-25. Meanwhile, Hakimi and Nuno lead the ranks with an impressive 31 goal contributions this season. These are some prime Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson numbers. Then there's reason number 2, the energy in their feet. Another huge factor in favour of PSG winning the Club World Cup is that they are the least exhausted of all the big favourites. First and most importantly, they play in Liga 1, which means the intensity is around 20 to 25% lower than all the other 5 big European leagues. Secondly, they won the league on the 5th of April, which is almost 2 months before the end of all other major European competitions. Just before the Champions League final, The Guardian published an interesting article titled "PSG won the Liga 1 title 57 days ago. Will the break disrupt their rhythm?" Well, we clearly saw how much exactly this pause disrupted their rhythm 1 day later when they demolished Inter 5-0. Yes, for any other team, not playing competitive football for almost 2 months, the only important game in that period was the Coupe de France final against Reims, would have heavily impacted the team's dynamics. But for Luis Enrique and his PSG, that was impossible. However, another important factor is the opponent's setup when they come up against PSG. As we mentioned earlier, if you try to outplay Paris Saint-Germain, they will destroy you. Yeah, you can score against them, but you have to deliver a perfect display to beat them at their own game. And this is why Botafogo managed to get the best of them. They scored the opener midway through the first half after receiving 1 good chance to take the lead, and then closed all the gaps in defense. But do you know why this worked? because Botafogo are one of the best defensive sides in South America. They won the Copa Libertadores, which is like the equivalent of the Champions League for South America, and they've conceded only 7 goals in 11 games since the start of the season, which is the second best record in the Brazilian Serie A. Even Luis Enrique praised their display after the game, stating Botafogo were the best defensive side we've come up against all season, both in our league and in the Champions League. They were excellent. And having said that, after you just played Atlético Madrid and Inter, who are widely regarded as 2 of the most defensive sides in the world, is another level of mockery. I know this wasn't his intention, but it just sounds funny. Of course, all the ovations go to Botafogo, who are another South American side yet to lose a game in the tournament. So, you get the point. Your only chance of beating PSG is through efficient defending. But can you imagine Bayern, Real Madrid, Man City or Chelsea defending deep in their own half? I can't really see this happening, and even if they do opt for such an approach, I don't think they're capable of coming out victorious. Seeing the gaps Real Madrid are leaving, I wouldn't want to be in Trent's position when he has to defend against Vitinha. And Man City, they conceded 44 goals in the Premier League this season, which isn't even in the top 5 best defenses in the league. Come on! Now that we've mentioned all the other big favourites, let's talk about the odds and then the 2 possible paths for PSG in the knockout round, depending on their final position in Group B. First, according to Odds Checker, PSG are the biggest favourite to win the competition, with a coefficient of 3-1, ahead of Man City 5-1, Real Madrid 6-1, and Bayern Munich 13-2. When it comes to the knockout phase, let's consider the 2 possible scenarios: PSG coming out of their group in first, and then second place. Of course, we are using the virtual ranking system. First, let's see what things would look like if PSG finished top of Group B, which is the less likely possibility. We'll explain why in a minute. If PSG do finish first, ahead of Botafogo or Atlético Madrid, they will play the team that finishes second in Group A, currently Inter Miami. Why is there a good chance of this happening? Firstly, Messi, Suarez, Busquets, and co. will probably not be able to beat flying Palmeiras and will finish second. On the other hand, there's a low chance of them finishing third because they'll just beat Porto. Also, at the Club World Cup, direct clashes matter the most if 2 teams finish with the same points. Therefore, even if Porto win against Al Ahly and Inter lose to Palmeiras, Miami will still qualify thanks to their 2-1 win in round 2. So, what does that mean for PSG? After eventually beating Inter Miami, they'll have to play the winner of Group D, which could be Chelsea or Flamengo, or Benfica, as the Portuguese club currently has the highest chance of finishing second in Group C. So, for the quarters, this looks like a cup of cake for PSG. And this is where it becomes interesting, because if both PSG and Real Madrid finish first in their groups, there's a huge chance of them meeting in the semis. As for the final, if they come past Madrid, they'll probably meet one of City, Bayern, or why not even Inter in a replay of the Champions League final. Now let's talk about the most likely scenario: PSG finishing second. You may ask, why is there a bigger chance of that happening? Well, as things stand, PSG have a very slim chance of finishing first after their defeat to Botafogo. The Brazilians have 6 points, while PSG have 3. The only way the Parisians can finish first is if they beat Seattle Sounders in round 3 and Atlético Madrid win against Botafogo by more than 1 goal. In that case, all 3 teams would have 6 points and goal difference would decide the outcome. For now, however, it's more likely that PSG will finish second. So, what would happen in that scenario? This would put them on the other side of the draw, which generally looks much more competitive. They would have to play Palmeiras in the round of 16, Bayern in the quarterfinals, and either Inter or Man City in the semis. Of course, these observations are entirely based on logic and the current standings in each group. As you may understand, in this scenario, PSG will probably meet Madrid in the final, which is basically what we all want to see in the last game of this revamped edition of the Club World Cup. So, what do you guys think? Is PSG really the scariest side in the world at the moment? And what is their chance of winning the whole thing? Share with us in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed that one, please subscribe to the channel or check one of our latest uploads in which we talked about the scary truth about Vitinha nobody is noticing and how good is Nuno Mendes actually. See you there.